You're still under oath, Dr. Hartzenberg? Thank you. Yes, Ms.
Madam, I asked you a question about the fact that Mr. Pistorius may get involved in another relationship in future, and you said, well, you cannot really say. Am I right?
As I recall, yes.
Now, like you refer to media reports, similarly, if I read in the media that he's already involved in another relationship. Do you know anything about that?
It was not something he discussed with me, that he was in another relationship, no.
You see, that I find very, very strange. Have you read it, that he's involved with somebody else?
I did read
So,
that there was someone he met with family friends, and that he met a young woman during the holidays. I did read that.
so, as a trauma counselor, your client have now found a new lady friend.
My lady, it's a giant leap. The one is a report in a newspaper, and he has now found. Because if state must bring evidence, because we will have our own evidence there if necessary. But he can't say he has found now a new relationship.
Can say it's reported in the media.
It's reported in the newspaper.
Yes, I agree.
Let me do that. Have you read it in the media?
I have.
Good. Did you believe it when you read it?
I think this trial has prepared me to when I read the media, to ask myself some questions while I'm reading it. But I did read it in the media, and I was aware of it.
Good. Now, as a trauma counselor, if it was even a remote possibility that he found somebody else, would that have been important for you?
My lady, if he mentioned it to me, and he wanted to discuss it with me, then that would have been important.
No,
but he did not.
And you never thought, I must take this up?
As a therapist, a psychotherapist, what your client brings to the therapy session is what you deal with.
I'm not. I'm going to ask one or two more questions about this. I'm not happy. Now, when you read it, and I just want an answer for you, you did not discuss it with Mr. Pistorius that he may be involved in another relationship. You did not discuss it.
When I read it, my lady, I did not make any interpretation. I did not know whether it was a serious relationship or whether it was family, friends. No, I did not discuss it with him. If he wanted to discuss it with me, he would have discussed it with me. So I had gained knowledge of it, but it was not something that we discussed.
Now, then the following question. First, let's do two things. As a psychologist, treating psychologist, with the fact that there is a possibility that he found a new lady friend not of important for you, would it have been important?
Am I understanding this question correctly? Had he brought it to the
No, not brought it to you. You found out about it and you want to know.
I want to know.
Yes.
I didn't ask him. There were so many things that we discussed that were very important, but he did not bring it to the therapy session, so we did not discuss it.
No, then, you see, I'm going to repeat the question, madam, unfortunately. The question is this. As a psychologist, a treating psychologist, when you became aware of this, was it important for you Was it important that he may have found a new love?
Lady, it would have been important.
Exactly.
If
I
it
agree with
impacted, it would have been important if it impacted on his emotional and psychological functioning in some or other way. Then, of course, it would have been important.
that. Good. I agree with that answer. Why did you not follow up on it?
Because he did not bring it to the therapy session, and I work in the therapy session that he brings to the therapy session.
So you don't go beyond what he tells you? Not at all. Am I right? That's what you're saying. I don't go beyond what he's telling me.
If it was something that was very important to him, he would have discussed it with me. He didn't.
You see, madam, you don't answer the questions, and it's really easy. You don't go beyond what he's telling you in a session, yes or no. That's the answer to it.
Is that a question?
Yes. Yes or no. Do you go beyond what he's telling you?
I deal with what he brings to the session.
No,
and
madam.
then we work around that.
No, madam. The question is something different. The question is, do you go beyond what he's telling you in a session, yes or no?
If I think it's important, yes.
You thought it was important that he may have found a new love. Why did you not deal with it?
Did I say that I thought it was important
Yes,
that
you
he
did.
found a new love?
You did.
Did he not qualify that?
She said it would have been important, my lady, if it's true. And I'm saying there's a
If it had
possibility.
to do with, it
Sorry.
had to do with his emotions or something.
Yes.
I didn't write it down, but
Yes,
I
my
think
lady.
she qualified it that way.
But I haven't taken notes. With the
I
leave of
also
the court,
didn't write
I'll
it.
just clarify.
Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm going to start.
My lady, I can assist. She said if it impacted on his emotions and so on.
Yes.
Yeah. If it's true and if it impacted.
A new love in his life. With him, he's lost his love relationship. He's constantly thinking of her. Now he has a new love, a possibility of a new love. Would that have impacted on his emotions, yes or no?
Lady, I had knowledge that the newspapers had reported that there was some young lady that he'd met. But I didn't have any evidence of that within my therapy sessions, and that had impacted on him. It wasn't something that he brought up that seemed to be that important to him. For all I knew, it could have just been a friendship. I don't know. I don't know what sort of relationship he had with the person. I actually, if I had to say what her name is, I'm not even sure of her name.
Again, you know what I asked you? As a professional person, I ask you for your opinion. If he met somebody, if he got involved in another relationship with a lady, would that have impacted on his emotions? Your opinion, please.
My opinion is that if I had knowledge of it, if I discussed it with him, if I had been able to know what the impact was of such a relationship, how important such a relationship was, then of course I would have an opinion on it. But we never discussed it, so I do not have an opinion on it. I don't know what that relationship exactly entailed. I don't know whether he saw her beyond what was reported in the newspapers. I simply don't know.
No, that I'm not there. I'm asking you as a professional, educational psychologist. If this accused met a lady and got involved in a relationship with her, as a professional person, would this have had an impact on his emotions? Yes or no? Not if you had knowledge of it. Forget about her name and your knowledge. Just answer that question.
Lady, if he had a relationship that was important to him and he shared with me his emotions about that relationship, then I would have considered it important and we would have dealt with it in the therapy. I did not have that knowledge.
I find it very strange that you would avoid answering this question at all costs. Why? Because I didn't ask you about your knowledge. I didn't ask you what you discussed. I asked you for your opinion. Why do you avoid it?
Milady, I don't have an opinion about something that I don't know about.
You see, I can still go on, but I don't think it's necessary. I just find it very strange that you don't want to answer. You said you got involved with Mr. Pistorius in February 2013. Did you know him before the time?
Not at all.
Never met him?
Never met him.
You were in court when he gave evidence?
I was.
He got emotional?
Excuse me?
The accused got emotional?
Yes.
So did you?
I was emotional once.
You cried in court?
I cried in court. I was emotional once when he was required to take off his prosthesis.
And you cried in court?
I did.
Good. Now, madam, as a therapist, wait, let me just ask you this question. Are you giving evidence as an educational psychologist or as a trauma counsellor?
Can't avoid the two. My qualifications are, my registration category is an educational psychologist, but I'm trained as a trauma counsellor as well. And I'm not only trained as a trauma counsellor, I actually give training to other psychologists. And I'm accredited, yes, as a trauma counsellor, and I'm accredited by the Health Professions Council of South Africa to do so.
To do what?
To offer training for CPD points.
Now, a trauma counsellor, do you get registered with the Health Professional Council?
There's no such category.
I know. So that's what I'm saying. Now, am I right in saying that your scope of practice is that of a educational psychologist?
I have explained to the court that I'm an educational psychologist and that I did tertiary education.
Yes.
I was trained in tertiary education.
Yes. Now, just to summarize it, and I have it all here, the definition of the scope of business, but it has to do with learning and development. Am I right?
It has?
Yes. In this particular matter, we had somebody that suffered from PTSD and severe depression, and you did not have any reason to work on learning and development. Am I right?
What's your question again?
You did. Sorry, my lady.
Your question again?
My question is, in this particular instance, you did not have to do any learning and development intervention.
I think development definitely forms a part of it, but I acted in a capacity as someone who has done research on a PhD level in trauma, as well as someone who was accredited and used to offer training to other psychologists on trauma.
Lady, I'll carry on now. Just grant me a moment.
No, this one.
May I just confer next? I unfortunately have to get just clarity on the last aspect. My impression is that you saw the accused as a trauma counselor. First, you did grief counseling, and later it turned into trauma counseling, but not as a psychologist.
Not as a psychologist.
You are a psychologist, I don't deny that. But the scope of your practice in this specific instance was that of a trauma counselor. Am I right or wrong?
I'm a psychologist who's trained to offer trauma counseling.
Yes. And what did you do here?
I offered trauma counseling.
Thank you. I've nothing further.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Nell. Yes, Mr. Rowe?
Dr. Hartzenberg, I'm not even sure about the question that I asked you about the relevance, but coming back to the story, and we'll deal with newspaper stories later on, of the relationship. That story, if I can assist you, came out long before the state cross-examined Mr. Pistorius, and even Mr. Nell did not ask questions. It was 1 March.
And I object, this is just a leading question. It starts leading with statements. And it's not, we're busy with re-examination. I object. Well, you can't make statements in re-examination.
It's sustained. Yes, Mr. Rowe?
He's quite correct, my lady. I have no further questions. It's quite correct.
Thank you. Any questions for the doctor? Dr. Hartzenberg, thank you very much for your assistance. You may be excused.
Thank you, my lady.
Yes, Mr. Rowe.
My lady, the next witness is Mr. It's Mr. Maringa. If I may just introduce him to the court in the sense that we requested through the state that a official at the Department of Correctional Services, Correctional Supervision, prepare a report, because that's one requirement in the Act, should that be a sentence option. We saw him this morning, he brought the report. He will have the reports with him. I only received one this morning. It is Mashaba Maringa, my lady.
The state also has a report. The state has a report as well.
I believe it was first given to the state. We received one. I don't know when they received one.
Thank you very much. The witness may be sworn in, please.
Joel Maringa. The witness's name is Joel Maringa. Unenking about touches from Otopinkolniso?
No.
We are from Utwangokulan Singandolo by Kunsolom between Selpele? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I don't know.
do you have any objection in taking the prescribed oath?
No.
Do you consider the prescribed oath to be binding on a conscience?
Yes.
If that is the case, do you swear that the evidence you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, raise your right hand and say, so help me God.
So help me God.
The witness is sworn in, my lady.
Thank you very much. You may be seated if you so wish, Mr. Maringa.
I'm comfortable.
Thank you.
My lady, I have not consulted with the witness, so I do not know whether he has any objection to be televised or the visual shown. Maybe if the court would deal with that.
Do you have an objection to being televised? You know these proceedings are being televised.
I'm not sure if I have an option because I am a public servant, my lady. The option to deny or...
Lady, in terms of the judgment by the court and the order, if you're a public servant, you don't have an option. That's why we had to expose all our witnesses.
I seem to recall.
The witness knows the order better than I could remember.
Yes. Thank you very much. No, we will proceed.
I will
Thank
accept
you.
it like that. Thank you, my lady. Mr. Maringa, you are employed by the Department of Correctional Services.
That is correct.
What does your employment entail, and in which branch do you serve?
I'm a social worker attached to the Office of Community Corrections in Pretoria.
What are your qualifications?
I'm holding a BA social work degree as well as LLB.
I see, according to your report, that the BA social work you obtained from in 1990, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And your LLB through UNISA in 2011.
That is correct.
Now, Mr. Maringa, when did you join the Department of Correctional Services?
I joined the department in 1995, but prior to that I was working for the Department of Health and Welfare, which is today known as Social Development.
And your capacity at the Department of Health and Welfare?
Social work,
Social
probation
worker.
officer.
Now, Mr. Maringa, through the state we requested a person to be nominated by Correctional Services to prepare a report on the accused, whether it would be possible to monitor him in the event of the court considering a sentence in terms of Section 2761H, the so-called house arrest.
That is correct.
You were left to your own discretion to investigate and to consider the matter.
Yes.
You had no consultation with the defence, for instance.
No, not at all.
Is that the report that you prepared that's before you?
That is correct.
My lady, the last exhibit would be Exhibit BBBB. So we'd ask the court to accept this report as Exhibit CCCC. Do you confirm that? Do you have it with you, Mr. Maringa?
I do.
How many copies do you have there?
I still have extra copies.
Would you please make the state as a copy, if you could make to the court, to the judge and the learned assessors, each one a copy available, please? Do you confirm that that is indeed your report that's being handed up?
That is correct.
Mr. Maringa, would you please go through your report for the benefit of the court?
As pleases the court, I will start on page 2 of the report.
Mr. Maringa, if I may ask, I have just difficulty in hearing. If it's possible to speak up a little bit.
Okay. As pleases the court, I will start on page 2. I've already shown in. A report in terms of Section 2761A of the Criminal Procedure Act 51 of 1977. Consideration of correctional supervision as sentence. Introduction. The below mentioned accused was referred to me on the 6th of 2014 by the Honorable Court in order to determine whether the accused is a suitable candidate for a sentence of correctional supervision. Consequently, the following details are provided.
May I just interrupt there where it says it's a reference by the Honourable Court, as I explained, and just see if that's correct, that we requested if a person from the Department of Correctional Services would be nominated to do a report. A form was sent that had to be completed by the state to sanction that appointment.
That is correct, yes.
And that was the involvement of the defence.
Yes.
You received the form back from the state, signed by the state.
We received it from the authenticated, signed by the prosecutor.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can go to paragraph 1.2, identifying details.
Name and surnames: Oscar Leonard Carl Pistorius. He's 27 years old. His ID is 861122524687. Controllability within community context. Stability on work environment. The accused is a professional athlete. He's affiliated to the following bodies: Tech Sports Athletics, International Paralympic Committee, International Olympic Committee, International Association of Athletes Federation. His income is generated mainly from active participation in athletic sports and sponsorship for giving motivational talks to underprivileged groups and communities across Africa. He holds, among others, the following titles from his sporting career. He represented South Africa at Athens Paralympic in 2004 and achieved 1 gold and 1 bronze medal. In 2006, he represented South Africa at the Paralympics World Championships in Assen and achieved 3 gold medals. He represented South Africa at the 2008 Beijing Paralympic Games and won 3 gold medals. He was a patrons at his table and the property at the restaurant. The accused does not have previous convictions. He does not have suspended or postponed sentences as well. He has never violated parole conditions or escaped from prison. On the physical and psychic condition, the accused is using prosthetic limbs. He explained that he was born with missing bones and that both his legs were amputated while he was 11 months old. He added that he is undergoing therapeutic sessions from a private psychologist after being diagnosed with post-traumatic stress resulting from the current case. The accused explained himself as a social drinker taking beer on special occasions. He, however, refuted the use of drugs except on medical prescription. On material support, the accused's means of financial support is derived from his career as a sports personality. He, however, alleged that due to the current trial, he lost opportunities and sources to generate income and is mainly surviving on savings made prior to the incident leading to the arrest. The treatment possibilities, the expected influence of correctional supervision as a sentence on individually directed treatment. The accused will benefit from correctional supervision as a sentence option in that in the process of compensating for the wrong done, he will get an opportunity to restructure and modify his offending behavior within the community context where there are sufficient resources to produce the expected outcome. Career as a sportsman, he will get an opportunity to make use of his productive years to remain financially independent. On the family system, the accused's uncle is the major source of social support. He has also offered him accommodation in order to be actively engaged in the facilitation of social acceptable behavior. The accused also relates very well with his siblings. As a result, community-based sentence will sustain the existing social relations and care. Prevention of further criminalization. The accused should be declared unfit to possess firearm in terms of Section 103(1)(f) of the Firearms Control Act 60 of 2000. Evaluation. The accused appears to be a cooperative person whose offending behavior could be managed and modified within the community context through the application of strict conditions prevalent within correctional supervision. The accused's behavior in general is socially acceptable. This is evident in his achievement as a sportsman. However, his encounter with firearms appears to tarnish his good standing and is attributable to the foundation of his troubles with the law. Recommendation based on the following. The accused is a first offender. The traumatic encounter of being responsible for the negligent loss of the life of companion of the Corrections Act 111 of 1998, that the accused be placed under house arrest for the duration of his sentence with due consideration of his work, cooperation in general, and other relevant circumstances in order to bring home the element of punishment to the accused and to attempt to prevent further crime perpetration by means of strict control and management, provided that the Commissioner may suspend house arrest partly or readjust it after a portion of the sentence has been served, depending on the accused's compliance with conditions and cooperation, the extent to which the accused proved that he is reliable, that the accused may not leave his residential or work address or magisterial district without prior approval, except for purposes of essential work or other reasons as the Commissioner may deem fit. In order to satisfy the community's expectations with regard to retribution and compensation for the crime, it is recommended that the accused should perform free community service for 16 hours in a month, with the possibility that the Commissioner may suspend the number of hours partly or readjust them depending on the cooperation and compliance with the conditions in general. Community service will entail general work at Transvaal Museum in Paul Kruger Street. Should it please the Honorable Court, the accused could at a later stage be moved to do general domestic work at Little Company of Mary Hospital situated at 50 John Stroer Drive, Grondkloof, after registration of the facility as a community service center, since the place is nearer to his place of residence. In order to equip the offender better for his responsibility as a member of the community, it is recommended that he should be obliged to attend programs aimed at improving the following problem areas which have already been identified, as well as any other program that might seem necessary while serving the sentence. The first program will be how to handle negative emotions, in particular fear, responsibility program with special reference to the duty of care to curb negligence, basic law, street law programs on firearms control, Act 60 of 2000, the trauma counseling, which trauma counseling to be conducted by the private psychologist, Ms. Lore Hartzenberg. 7.5, that the accused abstain from the abuse of alcohol and the use of drugs, that the accused may not commit any further crime. The Commissioner shall, in terms of Section 52 of the Correctional Service Act 111 of 1988, set any other condition which may be essential for the execution of correctional supervision. That the Commissioner will see to it that the conditions are complied with and act in accordance with the provisions of Section 70 of the Correctional Service Act 111 of 1998 if the conditions are violated. The accused, and lastly, that the accused should report at Community Corrections Office, Pretoria, on the 14/10/2014 at 9 at corner Sophie de Brain and W.F. Nkomo Street, Pointons Building, ground floor, if the accused is sentenced for correctional supervision.
Thank you, Malady.
Well, the date of the 14th is premature, isn't it? The date of the 14th is premature.
Yeah, the date, if I may just ask you about this, should it not read within a couple of hours after the sentence is imposed?
Yes, I think that could be
because
modified.
We don't know. We don't have.
Doesn't look.
What is the normal? What is the normal approach there? How long after the sentence imposition, if there's such a sentence?
Well, mostly if he is sentenced before 10 o'clock, he almost reported the same day. But if that is later than that, he is reporting at our offices the following day.
Before what time?
9 o'clock.
Thank you, my lady.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Mayor?
Is it good? So, am I right in understanding your report is that you investigated the accused circumstances, you looked at the accused, and you indicated that looking at the accused himself, he's a candidate for correctional supervision.
That is correct.
Nothing more than that. You haven't looked at the judgment, for instance.
The judgment, I've looked into it.
You've looked into it.
Yeah.
And in terms of sentence, you know that even if somebody is convicted of culpable homicide, the degree of culpability is important, you know that.
Yes.
So if somebody is grossly negligent and somebody that's in the blink of a moment committed a crime, the sentence between the two should be different. Gross negligence should be different. Am I right?
You say if he is...
If the conduct of the accused was grossly negligent, the sentence should be harsh or not?
I could say it could be harsh, but my contention is that correctional supervision is not a getaway sentence. It is, in fact, a very harsh sentence, because if somebody is sentenced for correctional supervision and he doesn't comply with the conditions, the probabilities are that he will still be brought into the court to indicate to the court that we have not received cooperation of this accused, and the accused can be subjected to any other sentence other than
Now, why did you not look at 276I?
I considered the fact that the accused is convicted of culpable homicide, which is a lesser sentence to the initial charge. I mean, the lesser conviction to the initial charge. So, based on the fact that there is also an element of retribution in correctional supervision.
So am I right in saying that you say that because he was not convicted of murder, you did not look at 276I?
No, I looked at it. What I am saying is that the conviction on the sentence is on a lesser charge. Therefore, I considered the correctional supervision to be appropriate.
Now, in terms of the judgment, the accused, in the words of the court, but you've read the judgment.
Yeah, I did.
You saw that the accused fired 4 shots into a door.
4 shots.
Shots into a door.
The one that he's convicted with?
Yeah.
As far as I can recall, it is not specifically stated in the judgment. It seems like it is said that he fired a shot on the ground. That's what I have seen in the judgment.
You're totally wrong, sir. You're confusing the two counts, and that's why I think we have a difficulty. In the restaurant, where he was convicted of a negligent discharging of a firearm, he fired a shot in the ground. With the culpable homicide, he fired 4 shots into a door, well knowing that there was a person in the cubicle.
You mean with the initial charge for murder?
Yeah.
Yeah, he fired 4 shots, yes, I've seen that.
And that he knew there was somebody in the toilet.
That is, yes, there was somebody else.
And objectively seen, the door was locked.
Yes.
And you've also seen that there was no attack on him by the door being opened or even the handle moved. You know that?
What I am aware of is that during the time that he fired the shot, understandably, he felt that somebody is coming out of the bathroom to shoot him.
But that wasn't the finding of the court.
That was?
Was it the finding of the court that you read in the judgment?
No, that is something which is stated in the judgment as well.
That he thought somebody was coming out?
Because of fright. He said because of the fright. He thought somebody was coming out to attack him.
You see, sir, I don't want to get into a long argument with you, but I think you've got the judgment wrong. And you base your recommendation on a judgment that you have wrong. Why?
I am not sure if I'm wrong because I have exactly seen that it's stated in the judgment.
You know that the accused used a 9mm pistol.
No, what I know is that he used a firearm. I'm not sure which type of a firearm used.
Now that is important because a high caliber pistol. You also know that he used black talon ammunition. Do you know that?
No.
See, those are all aspects as far as the degree of culpability of the accused is concerned, and you haven't even thought about that. Why, sir?
The position for me now is that I am actually proceeding from where the court ended, because the court has already convicted him of culpable homicide, and I am not basically going back to the merits of the case. Mine is to proceed from where the court ended with regard to the advice when it comes to the issue of the sentence.
But certainly, sir, you're the expert in this area. Sentence should really be imposed based on the judgment and the merits of the case, on the findings of the court, isn't it?
That is correct.
It's not. One can't take the word culpable homicide and just say that for culpable homicide, I think 276H. You have to look at the culpable homicide. Am I right?
That is right.
So, and that I find you didn't do.
Well, I considered a lot of it's not only the issue of the firearm, because his personal circumstances are, among other things, something that needs to be considered as well. And also the interest of the community. These are some of the things that we basically consider.
Yeah.
I basically do not look at the issue of the firearm only.
Okay. You 100% correct. You said the crime, the personal circumstances of the accused, and the interest of society should be.
That is correct, yes.
No, you're right. I'm just dealing with the seriousness of the crime still, because that's what you indicated to this court, that you recommended 276H.
Yes.
Based on the seriousness of the crime.
Yes.
Okay. Now that's why I'm testing it. Then you cannot tell the court what you took into account. You only took into account the word culpable homicide.
Because that is the conviction that the court found.
You know that the court found that the accused armed himself and walked down a passage with the intention to use his firearm. You know that?
That is not what I have seen in the judgment.
But it is there. I promise you, people would stop me, sir. You know that. He armed himself. He walked down the passage with the intention to use that firearm. Would that change your view?
My contention would be that as far as I recall, he had no intention to shoot. That is what is stated in the judgment.
No, that's not stated in the judgment at all, sir. There is nowhere in this judgment that the accused had no intention to shoot. You're wrong. How can you base your report on a misreading of the judgment?
I am sure that I have seen something like that in the judgment.
You know, the court sits there. The court will never allow me to put something to you that's incorrect. So if the court doesn't stop me, you can take it that I'm correct. So it's not there, sir. There is nowhere in that judgment that he never had the intention to shoot. You're wrong.
Well, I'm not aware of anywhere in the judgment where it is specifically stated that he had the intention to shoot.
You see, sir, I said to you that the court made a finding that when he armed himself, he walked down the passage towards the bathroom with the intention to use his firearm. The court still said, if you use a firearm, you shoot. You don't have any intention to hit somebody over the head with a gun. Did you read that?
No.
But why did you not? It's in this judgment.
I haven't seen it.
But then, sir, you haven't really applied your mind to the seriousness of the crime at all.
I have applied my mind with regard to the sentence, especially taking into account that the sentence of correctional supervision is not a getaway.
Yeah.
it is as harsh as any other sentence.
So in this instance, but no, let me first deal with this. So I'm dealing with the seriousness of the crime. You indicated that your recommendation of 276H is based on the seriousness of the crime.
Yes.
You even went further to say, I did not recommend 276I because of the seriousness of the crime. Am I right?
No, what I said is that I did not consider 2761I based on the fact that he was convicted of a lesser charge than the initial charge.
But that's not the test. The test is the facts that he was convicted on, isn't that? That's the real test for sentence.
The test for sentence basically involves the crime, the criminal, and the interest of society. I did not basically consider only one aspect. All of this aspect, including the interest of society, were considered.
And you also agree that deterrence is also something that the court should take into account to deter people from grabbing their guns and shooting through toilet doors.
That is correct. That's why I recommended that the accused should be considered to be unfit for possession of.
You also know that the innocent woman that found herself in a cubicle was shot and killed.
Yes, that I know.
So, what you're saying is, you take it for granted that this accused wants to take up his career as an athlete again. Did he tell you so?
Yes, if he is granted an opportunity to do the sentence of correctional supervision, he may proceed with his career.
The question is something different. Did he tell you he wants to?
Yes.
So he wants to carry on with his career.
That is correct.
So correctional supervision would allow him to go train?
Yes.
Would allow him to take part in athletic meetings?
That is correct, yes.
But if he's not training, he must go home.
Yes.
But that is what a professional athlete would do, isn't it?
Yeah.
In the normal scope of events in any case.
That is correct.
So that would be no sentence.
That would be?
No sentence. Because that's what a professional athlete would do.
No, it is a sentence. In the sense that we put various conditions upon him to comply with. And if he is not complying with those conditions, he will be brought back to this same honorable court for the court to consider an alternative sentence.
Now, in terms of 276C, how many years did you have in mind?
In terms of?
276C, how many years of correctional supervision?
Well, 2761H, you mean?
Yeah, sorry. You're right, I'm wrong. Sorry.
Okay, you're welcome. 3 years.
Only 3 years?
3 years correctional supervision.
And you think that that is in the interest of society, that reflects the seriousness of the crime, that somebody should be sent to 3 years correctional supervision for having killed an innocent woman in a house?
Basically, the issue here is that not only retribution is considered when sentencing. We are also looking at the issue of reforming the accused and the interest of society as well. For the wrong that he has done, he will be compensating society by doing community service. So as a result, these 3 factors need to be taken into account.
So I put to you that to even suggest 3 years, 276C is shockingly inappropriate for what happened in this matter. Shockingly inappropriate.
I wouldn't say that because his movement is basically limited. Basically what is happening is that he is going to be put within his home environment. He will not do as he wishes. He always have to ask for permission, including when he leaves the magisterial district. And also he has got to attend the programs which are aimed basically at reforming him. The basic issue, I suppose, in terms of consideration of the criminal, when we speak about the issue of threat in Zim, reformation is also a factor. We are basically not saying that he should be destroyed, because he will still be coming back within the community. So what we are doing is to reform him to make a suitable, responsible citizen.
I understand what you're saying. You used the word destroy. Have you had any thought of the family of the deceased, if their lives were destroyed?
I do. I really sympathize with the family greatly.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
I really do.
So why would you then recommend a 3-year sentence under age? Would that family not think that the laws, the courts have now not given us what they should?
Yes. One aspect that needs to be considered here is that the accused is convicted of culpable homicide.
Again, we're there.
Yes. So, being that the case, there are numerous occasions in which correctional supervision is considered as a suitable sentence when it comes to culpable homicide.
Culpable homicide we get when there are motor car accidents as well. You know that. That's the most common.
Yes.
Okay. But what we have here is something different.
Yes.
It's a person that used a firearm, high caliber firearm.
Yes.
Did that play any role in your recommendation?
It did.
But what you know is it never played a role in your recommendation that his conduct before he fired the shot.
In this case, we are basically looking at the issue of negligence, not intention.
What was the negligence here?
He was negligent in the manner that he unintentionally fired a shot. It was not his intention.
I'm not going to take it further. So you're wrong. He never unintentionally fired any shots.
But that is the finding of the court.
No, it wasn't. Thank you, my lady. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Rowe?
I have no re-examination. Thank you, my lady.
Mr. Maringa, in one of your recommendations, you refer to community service.
That is correct, Worship.
What exactly would the accused be doing? Because you call it general work. What is general work?
Basically, it involves cleaning. What is taking place right now, what our probationers are doing at the Transvaal Museum, they do the cleaning work outside of the yard of the museum.
Mm-hmm.
They also clean the inside. In other words, they are doing some kind of domestic work within.
Yes, isn't that what other prisoners do as well?
In
prisoners inside the prison, don't they?
In correctional centers.
Pardon?
In correctional centers.
Yes.
In correctional centers, we have got those who are going out to work in terms of spans. We call them, they are in spans.
In terms
they
of?
go out. They are grouped in spans. They go
Yes.
out to work.
Yes.
If they are risky, they are not allowed to go out to do this kind of work elsewhere because of minimizing the risks of escapes.
What is 16 hours a month spread out?
Yes.
What is it?
What is happening is that he does 16 hours in a month, and that is divided into 8 hours per day. So which means in a day he will be doing 8 hours, twice in a month.
I see.
Yes.
Yes. Any questions arising?
Nothing, thank you, my lady.
Any
Nothing,
questions? Thank you very much, Mr. Maringa, for
Thank
your
you.
assistance. You may be excused.
Thank you, my lady.
Yes, Mr. Rowe?
Thank you, my lady. I call Mr. Van Zyl.
The witness may be sworn in, please.
Meneer, wat is die volle naam van?
Petrus Johannes Daniel van Sail.
Meneer, het die enige bezwaar om die afgeschreven eed af te nemen?
Glad nie.
Beskouw je dit als bindend op je geweten?
Ek doen.
Als het die geval is, zweer je dat die getuigenis wat je gaan geven, die waarheid gaan die is die hele waarheid. En samen als die waarheid niet, steek je rechterhand op en zij zo help me God.
So help my God.
The witness is sworn in, my lady, and informs me that he gives evidence in English.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Yes,
you, my lady.
Mr.
This
Zulu?
witness has given evidence on the merits, and it was then also asked that the court sanction the order not to be televised or still images taken of him.
You want that to be repeated?
You wanted that to be
Yes.
repeated.
No images of this witness, that is Mr. Fansay, may be published in any form.
Thank you, my lady. Mr. Van Zyl, just to recap your evidence that you gave during the trial, you were the manager of the accused with regards to his professional career in athletics.
That is correct indeed, my lady.
The purpose of today is to take you through the position of the accused in relation to two particular aspects. The one is the charity work done, and the second one, what's left of his career.
That's correct.
Mr. Van Zyl, you have made available to us a number of documents relevant to the two aspects,
That is
and
indeed
particularly the charity work.
correct. That's correct,
My
my lady.
If I may make available, my lady, the documents. Do you have a document with you there?
I do indeed.
I'll ask the court to accept it. It will be dealt with by the witness as Exhibit DDDD. And it's also paginated, my lady, from pages 1 to 124. Mr. Van Zyl, if I may rewind in time to go prior to the incident on 13 February 2013, what was the position of the accused in respect of his professional career?
Mr. Pistorius was commonly perceived as a global sporting icon due to his achievements in the London Olympic and Paralympic Games.
Now, in the first document is a letter by you dated 11 September 2014, and in that you refer to a number of entities or instances under the heading that he was a patron of a global brand ambassador for or supported in an active capacity. Could you just identify those bodies and inform the court what that was all about?
Indeed, we can do that. Mr. Pistorius, if we can start from the top, was a global ambassador for the Laureate Sport for Good Foundation, where you had to be nominated by your peers, which consists mainly of retired sporting icons, where then you will have to do certain events out of your own time to raise awareness in various aspects of things like malaria, HIV/AIDS awareness campaigns, also what role and predominantly what the role sport can play in upliftment of communities, and that sport is actually a unifier, and it can change the world.
And when you act as an ambassador in that capacity, do you get remunerated?
There's no remuneration whatsoever.
And what was the position of the accused? Did he in fact accept the position?
Mr. Pistorius did accept the position after he received also a Laureate Sports Award in 2012.
Then you refer to UNICEF. What is UNICEF?
UNICEF is one of the biggest global organizations taking care of campaigns mainly focused on children, and also here Laureates tied in with UNICEF, whereby they wanted to use Mr. Pistorius closely to work with kids with disability, mainly in countries that had severe civil war incidents.
And did the accused do so?
Mr. Pistorius did in fact started doing some work already for UNICEF, where he went to Tanzania in beginning of December 2012.
We'll come back to that later. And the Leonard Cheshire Home, UK?
That is a home in the UK also for disabled people, where Mr. Pistorius, whenever he was in the UK, visited the home and did various awareness campaigns and charity raising events for them.
The next one?
The next one is the Kaylee campaign, which is a foundation founded in South Africa by a young girl based in Cape Town. And Mr. Pistorius was the patron of that, and also there Mr. Pistorius conducted various events for them to raise awareness and also raise funds for the Kaylee campaign specifically.
I assume every time it's free of charge, no
free of charge
compensation.
on his own cost and time.
If you can go down the list.
Then the Oakley One Side campaign, which is one of Mr. Pistorius' sponsors, Oakley, where they had a campaign in various townships across South Africa to raise awareness of the importance of eyesight, and where Mr. Pistorius then also visited some of these townships with the PR team from Oakley and also with the optometrists, where they then expose people and show people that if you get your eyes tested, that you can actually have a significant improvement in eyesight. And then also if there was any people that had illnesses or diseases, that this can then be addressed by Oakley based on their research they've done.
Nike?
And then Nike, their campaign was, or their slogan is that if you've got a body, you're an athlete. So they see that Mr. Pistorius personified this slogan and really wanted to use him effectively globally to highlight the plight of people with disability and to take up sport.
Reach for a Dream?
Reach for a Dream, also a domestic foundation, where from time to time we would receive requests from Reach for a Dream, where a kid would have a specific dream that they want to be realized, and on a couple of occasions Mr. Pistorius was this dream that they wanted to meet Mr. Pistorius, spend time with Mr. Pistorius, or if not Mr. Pistorius, then if we could make him available for either an event or a charity fundraising drive.
If there's a charity fundraising, where do the funds go to?
It goes to the specific charity organization that this charity drive has been developed for.
And was Mr. Pistorius active in this?
Yes, he was very active in these events, where he would attend various events in South Africa for local charities, and then also on a global scale for the bigger international charities, like I've mentioned, like UNICEF and Laureus.
There's also reference to Mr. Trevor Brockman. What is that?
Yes, indeed. Mr. Pistorius has always been a very proud person, where he never wanted people to know, and he always told me that I'm not allowed to make this knowledge while he was still competing, that he's actually donating some of his own funds for people with disability to help them to make prosthetics. So we would receive on Mr. Pistorius' website requests from people either asking advice, whether we can advise them in terms of what should be done. For instance, we would have, and it's also in the documents, we would have a mother send me an email on Mr. Pistorius' website requesting that they need help. They've got a kid with a similar condition. What can we do? And then Mr. Pistorius would take it upon himself to then interact with this person and give advice and guidance and put them up with either then a person that can make the prosthetic, like Mr. Brockman in this case, or then with OSA, who can then supply the actual prosthetic itself. But then Mr. Pistorius has also even gone further, whereby we received photographs and requests from various people asking help for kids who did not have the financial means or medical accessibility to prosthetics, where Mr. Pistorius then instructed me to use some of his own funds, whether he then go and give a corporate talk. For instance, the specific document that I've also included here is for the national yearling sales for the racehorse industry. We would then transfer that funds to Mr. Brockman, and Mr. Brockman then used that funds to make prosthetic legs for these kids.
What was Mr. Pistorius' approach to serving the public in this sense?
In my dealings with him over the years that I've been involved with Mr. Pistorius since 2007, I have yet to meet a more accommodating person, a more humble person that will always go out of his way to make other people feel at ease. He also would go the extra mile, for instance, to spend time with people, whether it be fans, whether it be kids. I can also, and I would really like to highlight an incident in Italy where Mr. Pistorius did an event for a young girl who lost both her legs and arms due to meningitis. And Mr. Pistorius was approached to come and visit the girl. He then took it a step further by competing in a 5-kilometer fun run, pushing this girl in a wheelchair to raise funds for public awareness and the plight of this young girl to get prosthetics made for her. And being a sprinter, running on blades, and now running a 5-kilometer fun run on the road with the current prosthetics legs he would be sitting with there is a totally different thing. That Mr. Pistorius had such severe blisters from running, and he put himself and his immediate races at risk just to raise the awareness for this young girl in Italy. And then there was a second incident whereby Mr. Pistorius also attended a workshop for children with disability, where one of the kids was so excited that they actually bit him. One of the disabled kids bit him, and Mr. Pistorius was just very nonchalant, helped the kid. Everybody else around him was so concerned and worried that Mr. Pistorius was bit by this young kid, that for him it's a child, let me deal with it, and it's nothing. The kid is excited, and we can take it from there.
You have brought us many, many documents dealing with charities, and we selected a few not to take too long in court. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And insert in this bundle. We're not going to deal in detail with them. If you could just, to confirm what you've been saying, to refer to these documents and just place them in proper context what it is, as confirmation for what you have stated. We go to page 3.
All right, page 3 is basically a communication between Professor David Nash from the University of Strathclyde. My lady, if the court pleases, maybe I should just give some more background information there. Mr. Pistorius' own foundation was scheduled to be launched in July 2013, but due to the events of February 14th, 2013, obviously that had to be postponed. But Mr. Pistorius have been working over an extended period of time with the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow on developing prosthetics for people in Africa, or basically across the world, that could not afford these prosthetics. So these new prosthetics that would have been developed along with the University of Strathclyde was to make them more durable, more easier to fit, more cost effective, more comfortable for the person to wear. So a lot of work has been gone in by Mr. Pistorius and the staff of the prosthetic center at Strathclyde University. And this is just communication between Professor Nash and myself and Mr. Pistorius to take the process forward in terms of rolling out the actual campaign in July 2013.
Page 5.
Page 5 is the actual letter from Professor Sir Jim MacDonald, who's the dean or the principal of the university, and Mr. Pistorius was then also awarded an honorary doctorate degree in prosthetics by this university.
If you go to page 6 and 7 would be the oration in honor of Mr. Pistorius.
That is correct.
Of the doctorate. What was it for? Does it state in the document?
It's for the work done. Excuse me, if you could just repeat the question, sir.
Is it stated in the document what it was for?
Yeah, it's basically for the work done by Mr. Pistorius and in terms of the development of this and the work that's been put in.
Yeah. That appears in the document, and there's just a picture on page 9 as confirmation.
Yep, that's correct.
Page 10 would be similar, also Professor Nash.
That's correct. That's all from Professor Nash in terms of the planning of the actual foundation of Mr. Pistorius.
That's also page 11 and 12.
That's correct.
Page 13 and 14.
Page 13 and 14, that is where we received official communication from Lord Sebastian Coe, the chairperson of the London 2012 Olympic Games, to get Mr. Pistorius involved in the official the official charity for the London Olympics and Paralympics called International Inspiration.
And did he get involved?
Mr. Pistorius did get involved extensively, actually, to that matter, and I have got also documents here which I could give to the court, where Mr. Coe has written a personal letter to Mr. Pistorius to thank him for the immense work that he's done on this charity.
Page 15, I see the name Amelia Novikov.
This is the lady who is the coordinator of the high-profile supporters and ambassador manager, very long title, for the person basically who coordinates all the specific charity events that they would like the brand ambassadors to go to.
Page 16.
Still communication between myself and the specific lady.
I see there's a reference to the Museum of London. What was that about?
During the London Paralympic and Olympic Games, there's a sports museum, and they wanted Mr. Pistorius to make a couple of appearances at this specific museum as well, which he did.
I see it also refers to saying it was a real pleasure to visit Tanzania with you, Oscar. What was that Tanzania visit all about?
The Tanzania visit was a combined visit for UNICEF and Lore Sports Awards, predominantly for the raising of malaria with children and HIV awareness.
Page 18 is reference to one Bridget.
This is that one specific letter I refer to, where we received a notice from a lady on Mr. Pistorius' website asking advice with friends of hers that she's got, who's got a child that was born with the same medical condition, and she would like to know what can be done. And Mr. Pistorius then took it, after I informed Mr. Pistorius of this, he took it then upon himself to communicate directly with this specific person to assist with whatever advice he could give.
Page 20. It's Liz McGill.
This is the charity of Sir Bobby Charlton in the UK, where he would also, or he then put forward a request to Mr. Pistorius to get involved in the charity. And due to this, there was a time constraint because it was clashing with the London Games, with some of the events that they wanted Mr. Pistorius to do. But we also then made a decision, and I basically took the decision upon myself, that we would rather focus on key charities where Mr. Pistorius can give more of his time and a bigger impact, rather than having 50 or 60 different charities hounding you for time and you cannot get to the actual plight of what the charity stands for.
Page 21.
That's also part of the same communication regarding Mr. Sir Bobby Charlton's charity.
I see it refers to clearing landmines.
Yes, it refers to clearing landmines, and also there was a feeling amongst myself and Mr. Pistorius that there's a duplication, as his own foundation would also be working extensively in landmine areas where he would want to help eradicating landmines, but then also give people back the gift of mobility, because that was going to be the slogan of his foundation as well. And maybe I can just refer back to where this whole thing about the gift of mobility comes back to. Mr. Pistorius, after the Athens Paralympic Games, was exposed to landmine victims in Mozambique, and this was even before my involvement. And he was so touched by a specific lady that hadn't been able to walk for more than 20 years. And they made a specific leg for her, and she was able to walk within 3 hours. And when I started working with him, he always referred back to that incident and said to me that one day my foundation will be giving people back the gift of mobility. And that's where the whole working with University of Strathclyde then formulated to start developing cost-effective, comfortable, durable prosthetics for people in Africa that do not have access to medical and financial means.
Page 24, where it refers to Oakley's hub.
That's correct. What happened there was Oakley designed a specific piece of eyewear that they then auctioned off. Mr. Pistorius was key. They used various global sporting icons to design their own piece of eyewear, and then they auctioned these off online. And then Mr. Pistorius was then asked to choose a charity of his own to then donate whatever funds was raised to go to that charity.
Page 25.
Page 25 is also with regards to Lord Sebastian Coe, and obviously just the work that Mr. Pistorius did during the International Inspiration Campaign of London 2012.
Page 28.
It's just the key messages that the International Inspiration wanted Mr. Pistorius to deliver, that they wanted to have out there in the media.
29.
This is the specific letter that I referred to, where Lord Sebastian Coe then just wanted to thank Oscar for his role that he's played up until that point, just before the start of the games.
Page 31 and 32, it's UN Goodwill Ambassador.
During one of Mr. Pistorius's visits in the Middle East, that was during December 2012, we were doing a lot of work with schools in Doha specifically, where one of the corporate social responsibility companies approached us and wanted to know if Mr. Pistorius would be willing to raise awareness of disability within the country itself. Because in the country there is a general feeling that if a kid has got a disability, the kid should be hidden away, and the kid should be not allowed to move freely in society. And also because of the parents being financially strong enough, all these kids would receive homeschooling. But the system was starting to change, and they wanted Mr. Pistorius to visit a lot of these schools for kids with disability, which we then did. And during one of our visits there, Mr. Pistorius then happened to meet Mr. Abdul Rahman Gandour, that's referred to in this email, who is a part of the United Nations. And he then wanted Mr. Pistorius to get involved with the United Nations. And for us, it was a very good tie-in with his own foundation, where we can then utilize our network within the UN to gain more access to more countries. Because we were then also approached by Gabon, we were also approached by the ambassador of Colombia to do work in those countries where there's a lot of landmine victims.
You explained to me in consultation in a very summarized way that when a person that's suffering from a disability, when he would see Mr. Pistorius, what would it do to him? When he could see what a person can do with a disabled body?
It ranges from various cultures and countries where people would have never seen a person without legs running, that they would want to touch and grab Mr. Pistorius and feel, is this person real that can run? Or in more civilized countries where people would be humbled by it and just wanted to have an autograph or a photo taken with him, or just discuss ideas with him. For instance, especially in Italy, where we were long periods of time during the season, we met with various people. We also met a young boy that had exactly the same condition as Mr. Pistorius. And his parents were very keen to share all the knowledge with Oscar that Mr. Pistorius' parents had gone through during the process to actually make the decision to have his legs amputated? What was it that they went through, and where must you amputate the leg? Must you amputate it above the knee, through the knee, below the knee? So that was the kind of questions that people would ask us.
Did he give them hope?
He sure did give them hope, but he also gave them more than hope. He always made the extra effort to give them also advice and specific contacts, people that they can phone, people that they can actually contact and say, if you can't contact, I will make the contact. And Mr. Pistorius did go that extra mile.
Page 33.
That was still communication between the gentleman from the United Nations. That's up until page 38 is still page 39, 40, 41, 42. If we can turn to page 44, that's a different event.
What is 44?
That is the event. There was a specific event that Mr. Pistorius attended down in Cape Town, where he also was, apart from being a panelist and a guest speaker, at no remuneration. I can add that. He also then went to the townships with a couple of other high-profile sporting icons, where they also played football with kids in the streets and sport fields, just to raise the plight of these children to the media.
Page 45, is that
That's
the same?
all still the same event, page 46.
47.
Again, this is UNICEF, to tie up with further events that we wanted to do with UNICEF in the new year in 2013. We were planning to do some stuff in New York, as you can see there, for later in the year. Doha, we
that's page 48.
Yeah, this was another event that we did in Doha. We combined this also now with a specific event where we were asked that if Mr. Pistorius can run against a racehorse, which was something initially that we were very hesitant, but later on we decided to do it in terms of the financial remuneration that was worthwhile, and it was my call because my job is to make money for Mr. Pistorius.
So that was not a charity?
That specific race was not for charity, but we also then combined it with, we stayed on for another 3-4 days afterwards doing charity work after we did this event.
Page 52.
This is all just part of the whole plan and the schedule of events that we had for the 4 or 5 days that we were there.
Page 55. Would that be relevant to what you've previously stated?
Yes, this was now another gentleman. After we started meeting with the United Nations, we were also then approached by another gentleman from the United Nations, but that works specifically on the World Feeding Program, where they wanted to see what synergy we could add on to Mr. Pistorius' foundation, where they can then also gain benefit from the Mr. Pistorius' foundation.
Page 57.
This is Mr. Richard Atias from the Doha Goals Forum. This was the event where Mr. Pistorius then also was a panelist and a guest speaker, which was happening the day before the actual race against the racehorse.
Page 58, the same, relevant to the same?
All the same, yes, that's correct.
Page 59.
59, with all the meetings that we had with the various people during the Doha Goals Forum, we were then also approached by this specific lady that's mentioned here, Karen, and then also Mr. Steve Chisholm, where they wanted to establish a new athletics competition in the Middle East, in Doha specifically, as there's never been any athletic competitions for people with disability in the region, again to raise the awareness and the profile of kids with disability and that you can actually compete in sport.
Page 62.
This is another email that Mr. Pistorius received from a lady with another foundation Hounds and Heroes, which is the British war veterans that comes back from Afghanistan, Iraq, where that has lost limbs, where they wanted Mr. Pistorius to start playing an active role to show these gentlemen that there is a life after you've lost a limb, that you can actually lead a pretty normal life.
Page 63.
This is the one incident I referred to earlier during the racehorse yearling sales, where we agreed with the gentleman that they would pay over the amount of money to Mr. Brockman, so that this money could be used for the young girl who is on page 65 to make prosthetic legs for her.
Is that the girl that you referred to?
That's the girl that specifically referred to, yes, yeah. And she did then go to Mr. Brockman and he worked on her with prosthetics.
Page 66, the same girl.
Same girl.
Page 67.
67 is just a communication from my side to the various sponsors of Mr. Pistorius for his foundation to finalize, because his current sponsors, apart from other sponsors that started to hear about the foundation, his current sponsors also wanted to play an active role. For instance, British Telecom, which was one of Mr. Pistorius' sponsors, wanted to provide all the telecommunication support for the foundation, where the mobile lab, and maybe I need to explain that a bit more, it's a mobile laboratory making legs, going out into the rural areas to have constant communication with the mobile lab. The company, the fragrance company, Terry Mugler, they wanted to donate a percentage of every bottle of perfume that Mr. Pistorius had, because we did the Amen perfume with Mr. Pistorius with his image on. So every bottle that got sold worldwide at airports, on flights, in fragrance stores, a percentage of that was going to be donated to Mr. Pistorius' foundation to help funding the manufacturing of all the prosthetic legs.
I think before the lunch adjournment we can do one more. That's page 69. That should be read, I understand, as 70 and 71.
It was another request that we received for the plight of this young boy that has lost both legs and arms, and then
did Mr. Pistorius become involved there?
Mr. Pistorius did become involved there, and then there's another young chap that I can also add, who lost his legs, and I think it was well publicized in Alexandra, where the school big tractor lawnmower that mowed the fields also cut both his legs off, and Mr. Pistorius met with both the kid and the family, and then also referred them and took them to Mr. Brockman for prosthetics. What's the purpose of the photos at 72 and 73? 72 and 73. Oh, this was just what we received from the people that sent it in on Mr. Pistorius' website. It's just a complete document to show the plight of the kid, how he had to use the skateboard to get over, for instance, on page 73, the pathway to the toilets, for instance, where this young kid, it was impossible for him to move around on a skateboard. And 74, the computer center? That is in the obviously taking care of his academics, and that's the mom on page 75. The photos onwards. And lady, would this be an opportune time to start at page 79, the resumption? Yes. If you can just wait a little bit, Mr. No. Please.
We'll take our break. Court will adjourn.